What up, guys? I'm back with the 179 streak on AI Generated World Part 2. Didn't really get this one out fast at all, and that's just because I've been busy with my new job. But as I'm starting to settling in, I am, getting more comfortable with the job and hopefully managing my time better. So hopefully we'll see more YouTube videos in the near future. But let's just jump straight into this explanation video. And we left off on this nice round. I am running this at 2x speed, by the way, because some of these rounds do take a long time. Like this one. Great start to the video. The 91st round is just absolutely very tough. A lot of panning done by me here. We're looking at every license plate, looking at every car to see if we can get any indication of what it could be. Our initial thoughts were that this could be Serbia and North Macedonia because I believe there's no antenna on the car. And then we do have some Cyrillic as well, it looks like, mixed with some Latin text. So those were the two that we were deciding between. We do see more blue strips on the cars, which is much more common in Serbia as opposed to North Macedonia, as North Macedonia tends to have more full white plates. And there you can see me circling the house number to see if anybody on the call actually knew what that was. It just looked like a generic Eastern European house number for sure, so we really didn't make too many conclusions off of that either. But the key is something that we'll see in the coming future, and I'll explain it when it comes up. So we zoom in on the propaganda again, and that's actually the big clue there. Apparently, that says Serbia in Cyrillic, or something along those lines that'll indicate that we are indeed in Serbia. So Geosteak lets me know, he makes the call, and eventually I do say, all right, let's go Serbia, because there is Serbia in Cyrillic on the poll, on the advertisement there, or on the flyer, rather. So we eventually decide to go Serbia here, and after a lot of panning, because I think on this initial pan, we didn't actually see that it said Serbia here. Let me try to skip forward a little bit more and see if we can... Yeah, so there is a lot of... But I think it was this at this moment when we zoomed in on there, it says something along the lines of Serbia or Belgrade or something like that, and we eventually settle on Belgrade, so that's great. This one we do have the black flag on the antenna, which can only be found in a handful of countries. Czechia, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania, and we do decide on Bulgaria here with the way that it looks. There is a lot of wind turbines, which is something that's really strange. Actually, I believe we go Hungary here. Apologies. That is also a Hungarian road number, I believe. So we do settle on Hungary with the wind turbines, which is a bit strange, but yeah, Hungary it is. This one is a bit strange as well, but luckily we have Geosteak in the call, who had a 300 plus Nordic streak. This one is clearly Nordic, as we can see by these colorful wood houses and these style of poles, and just the general environment. We have very cold looking environment, I would say, and trees that generally thrive as it gets lower in temperature. Also, we do notice that we are on a bit of an incline here, and that's pretty common in Norway, honestly. So I think this is what we're trying to decide between Norway and Sweden here, I believe. I believe Steak makes a comment about the mailboxes. And we eventually do settle on... Sorry. We do settle on Norway here. We decide that that's the best choice, and Steak is correct. This one, we can see a mixture of Latin text and Cyrillic. It looks like it's very hard to make out in the distance. And we have no antenna on the car. And that should tell us, with the yellow sign, that we are indeed in North Macedonia. So all those things, the Cyrillic mixed with the Latin text, as well as the yellow sign, kind of pointed us towards North Macedonia here, and we were very close to the border. This one should be a straightforward Indonesia. We have a leaning pole there, and we have the front plates on the bikes, and the back plates with 3 white sections. This one was also very tough, because it looks like a straightforward British Columbia, but this map does have a heavy amount of Alaska locations, especially in that Juneau area. There is a surprising amount. So we were trying to decide what the best course of action for this one was. So we actually brought in the resident, America's expert, I would say, North American expert, John Harvey Kellogg, to help us out. And yeah, it's just basically me stalling, waiting for him to come into the call here. So let's try to skip forward a bit more. And here's me looking at parts of Alaska near Juneau and in that area to see if anything fits. But eventually, we do win a good amount of 50-50s in this streak, and I think, every streak's going to have a bit of luck to it. Obviously, the guesses can be educated, but you never know 100% for sure unless you actually do look for the 5K, which on this particular road seemed very, very tough. So yeah, just a bit more panning for me, showing him the mountains and stuff like that. And eventually he says, yeah, I don't know if this is really something that we'll see in that part of Alaska. So we do settle on Vancouver, and it actually ends up being Vancouver Island. So very cool. This one should be New Zealand, courtesy of those very snow-capped mountains in the distance, just in that Christchurch area. Pretty good plonk for me. This one should be a very straightforward UAE as well. We have a white car, some Arabic mixed with some English, and we are driving on the right, so that pretty much indicates that we are in the UAE. This one, I believe that says Viseu, something along those lines. So with that C as well, it should just be a very easy Portugal here. Just some Portuguese language. This one, a little bit interesting, but it should be Chile. Chile does tend to have those double metal bars on the yellow signs more frequently, and we can see some Chile poles on the hill there with the indentation, so very nice Chile. This one looks like Generation 4 Russia, and we kind of decide on that one immediately. Pretty easy send. Listening to the call and asking them where they want to go. Just ends up being near Perm. And this one, we have a clear speed limit sign on the side there, so we're pretty free to send the United States. And it just ends up being New Hampshire or Vermont in that area. That looks like a Stobie there, and we have another Stobie there, and those are South Australian poles. Actually ends up being near Kangaroo Island or even on Kangaroo Island. And this is the Uganda car. So we pretty freely sent Entebbe there because of the sandier soil. This one looks like another North Macedonia. We do not have antenna on the car. And we do have those NMK bollards that are pretty infrequent, but you can see them sometimes. So we do just send North Macedonia, and it ends up being near Skopje. And here we have the new Gen 4 Romania. So we have these holy poles painted at the bottom. And with the antenna, which is way more common in Romania than it is in Bulgaria and stuff like that. This one should be Australia with the antenna. New Zealand never has this long antenna, at least to my knowledge. So we just settle on Brisbane, and it is near Brisbane. And this one actually should be South Africa with the white car in the back. C is to our east, so we do settle on Durban. Something where the C makes sense to the east, and it ends up being closer to Durban after I switch to Port Elizabeth. This one does look like we have a significant looking green blur. I believe that O letter is also only in the Estonian language. So, pretty easy Estonia send there. All right, and then this one is very interesting. We do have a little fake meta that, you know, I tend to use, is which if there is grass growing in the middle of the road, it is typically Ireland over the UK. I feel like it works a good amount of the time. But yeah, definitely looking at that house as well, it definitely looks more Irish. I think our main concern here was Northern Ireland. But we do end up sending Ireland, I believe, on this one, just because of the house and the houses in the distance. I was consulting with Trabota over that electricity sticker. That's very hard to make out on the pole there. But yeah, let's try to move to it. And it just ends up being Southwest Ireland. So, very interesting location. Those 50-50s are always very hard. So we do have a double white line here, and that's something you'll pretty much only see in Malaysia. I've only seen it in Indonesia a handful of times. So we can safely send Malaysia there with that plate in the background. This one here was a bit harder. Not too much to go off of besides the houses, it looks like. What do we end up sending here, actually? It's been a month and a half. I actually just don't remember. But yeah, Denmark does make the most sense with those houses if we go back and look at them. So those white houses with those gray roofs, also very common in Denmark, alongside that brick house there that we can see on the right there. So the combination of those two and the general landscape vibe, very agricultural, kind of pointed us towards Denmark here, and we safely send that. All right, so here, it's very hard to make out that plate, actually. But it looks to be white. Even watching it back on the second playthrough, it does look white. So we do end up sending Ireland here just because of the white backplate. This one should be a very easy Peru. We have black car, and this meta, in which if we do see like walls painted white, they like to put like political propaganda or a candidate's name on the wall there. So that's pretty common in Peru as well. This is also a Peru pole top, so all those things kind of pointed towards Peru. I'm circling that road marking there to see if that means anything, and it actually does, because it is just a Malaysian road marker, and we can safely send down. Una Via is actually more common in one Latin American country as opposed to others. I generally see it the most in Ecuador. That's not to say that you can't see it in other countries, but Ecuador generally does have Una Via in almost all of their one-way signs. That being said, this is Guatemala. I didn't pan enough. I actually didn't remember it on the second watch through either. But it is Guatemala, so very cool. This one should just be Sweden with the short outer dashes and the red road. I still can't get over that Guatemala one that I just didn't remember. Because I would probably said the exact same thing, and then I panned. Okay, this one, we do have a short sign here, which is usually indicative of France. That is kind of a fake meta, though. These houses are looking very Portuguese, in my opinion, with these orange roofs and the just white body of the house. We know it's not Spain because of the sign there. If it was Spain, the red border would be thick. There would be no white outer border on the sign. So I think I'm trying to convince them that it is Portugal, even though we do have this low sign. Let's see if my memory fails me again, and I just actually don't remember where it is. But yes, I believe we do deliberate, and we do settle on Portugal, and it is. This one does look a lot like Canada. We have a single yellow line in the middle. Houses looking very northern Canadian. And we do end up going somewhere near Nova Scotia. Which does make a lot of sense to me. I don't really see this being the United States anyway. It just ends up being Newfie. This one looks like Gen 4 Russia. We have some Cyrillic, some very Soviet-looking poles. So we do end up going near Volgograd, and it is Orenburg, so not too bad. This one, we do have some no passing zone signs, and those are signs that you'll actually only see in the United States. You won't ever see those in Canada. I'm not sure what the Canadian equivalent of those are, but yeah, you'll only see those in the United States, so we can safely send the United States there. Those triangle signs are the no passing signs. So this one, we do have an antenna here with wintry looking coverage. And looking at that plate, it does look to be full white, so we can easily send Croatia. This one, we do have bollards, Icelandic bollards, so easy Iceland there. This one, we have all yellow plates on the vehicles here, and also that sign is looking mighty Dutch. So we scan for it for a bit, for whatever reason. And we end up sending. And it was nowhere close. Alright, so this one, we have black car, very dry-looking environment with the shrub plants, and that's always going to be Argentina in that case. And this one is quite interesting. As you guys can see, it appears we are caught in the middle of the dust storm in the Google car. But we do have a Generation 4 car here with the blue. So I guess this one kind of confused me a little bit. Sun is in the north, I do believe, and we are driving on the right, as we can see the front of the car, but it should just be Argentina here, near some salt flats, was our initial thought. Usually, you know, Argentina's not going to look this deserty, but it makes sense that it's there. This one's actually a very interesting one. We do have a short antenna on the car, and if we are in Montenegro, it's going to be near the coast, so that kind of lines up. So I actually end up scanning Montenegro to see if anything lined up with this bay, because it should be very distinct. But we also look at Koper, because this map does have a copious amount of Koper. So, trying to look at that to see if anything lines up, especially with that jutting dock in the distance. But eventually, I do find the jutting dock there in bar. Totally lines up, totally makes sense. You can see me highlighting it there with my mouse. Both docks, and the city size is definitely big enough. So I'm just looking for a road to put it on. I actually put it on that road because I am a dummy dumb. When it should be a little bit further north. Not sure why I'm putting it on the yellow road there, because it's definitely not on the yellow road, but yeah. We get very close there. That's all that matters. We get the country. These poles are certainly not Malaysian or Indonesian. And with the white plate there, it has to be the Philippines, because Malaysia and Indonesia would have some black plates. That car definitely looks Korean, and we have a pole there with the yellow and black stripes that don't go all the way to the ground, diagonal. And that's always going to be South Korea, so we easily send South Korea here. This one is looking a lot like Canada. We do have a Manitoba plate there. As you can see, the green on both sides indicate that we're in Manitoba. So yeah, pretty easy Manitoba send. It does end up being very far north of Manitoba, which makes sense in hindsight. This one's very cool. I think we did have a Russian flag in the background there, but with the Gen 4 and the environment, it's always going to be Russia there, and it ends up being in Yakutsk. So, and this one is Colombia, yellow plates, Colombian cross. And this one is Sweden with the short dashes on either side. This one's going to be Guatemala. We have the car meta and the painted poles there. Red painted bottom poles are very common in Guatemala. This one's going to be Jordan. We have the black car with a very Amman-looking backdrop. This one, we do have a black sticker on the pole there, which indicates that we are in Malaysia with the Gen 4 camera and the black plates on the vehicles. And it actually ends up being Langkawi, which is very interesting, because I don't get that area too much. This is Lesotho, Rocky Craggy Mountains. And this one actually, I believe it is Mexico. So these white outer dashes kind of look like Swedish dashes, but a bit longer. Very common in Mexico. And we have a yellow center line. So we should be in Yucatan somewhere, given the environment. It ends up being Quintana Roo, I believe. This one, we have a short antenna, very kind of a significant mountain in the background, I would say. But the conjunction of these poles and the general environment, I believe this does end up being Slovakia. On second glance, that's where I would go. I don't remember any of these locations, so I'm kind of winging this one on the fly. But Slovakia does have these like little concrete blocks at the bottom, I would say. Similar to stuff that you'll find in Hungary and like Croatia as well. Houses don't look particularly Croatian to me. And these mountains are a little bit strange for Croatia as well. So we do end up sending Eastern Slovakia, and it just ends up being in the middle. So this one looking very Russia-y as well. We have yellow outers, which is wouldn't say it's that rare in Russia. But again, we go Yakutsk because you can see, and we're just on the river there, so it totally makes sense. And this one, very interesting location. I can't remember where this is on second glance. We have some wood poles here, which is very atypical of what I would imagine this could be. I think I'm saying that the houses look Italian to me, and the people in the call are agreeing, so makes sense. This one is actually trekker coverage, so I was a bit worried about this one. Just because, you know, this could easily be the United States, somewhere in Montana, Idaho area, but the mountains are looking pretty Banffy, as I recall somebody in the call saying. I think it was Geosteak. So yeah, a lot of deliberation here, I believe, but we do end up going near Banff, I think. Yeah, and I think it ends up being there as well. Let's see. Yeah. This one, we just have Australian bollards. So we are in Australia. That was a very poor Australian accent. I apologize to the Australians that are watching this video. This round was extremely confusing to everybody in chat, including me. I typically consider myself to be pretty good at Latin America in general, distinguishing between things. The sun is very firmly in the south, which is very confusing to me because this looks like some sort of salt flat, something like that, which are typically things that you're going to find more in Southern America, or South America, rather, than in Mexico. So it certainly could be Mexico, given how dry the environment is with these mountains. But that certainly wasn't my first thought. But the sun is very dead set south, which, looking back on it, makes me wonder why we didn't send it sooner. I was heavily considering something like Argentina here, but the mountains don't really make sense, I would say. So I guess Colombia was the other option as well. It could be Colombia with the sun south, because the sun around the equator gets very wonky, I would say. But I don't know if there's anything in Colombia that really lines up like this. And in conjunction with the sun being south, yeah, you can see me scanning Colombia here, looking for a potential place that it could be, circling that as a possibility. But I don't believe it's that mountainous there. So we end up sending Mexico, even though to me it doesn't look like what your typical Mexico would look like. I think once again we're trying to look for something that would potentially line up. Oh, not sure what's going on with the video there, but yeah, we do end up settling on Mexico because the sun is very, very firmly south. So yeah, let's see if I can skip to the part where we actually do send Mexico. Appears we are frozen. There we go. All right. So, yeah, looks like I'm clicking guess here. Let's see where it is, actually. It's actually south of Guadalajara. I guess it's just a dried up lake there, which makes sense in hindsight. So, this one, you always got to consider the sneaky Vietien, however you pronounce it here. But this does, in our opinion, I believe this one took a while as well, because we were deciding between if this is Vietien, possibly. So it's just us deliberating still. Because you can get the same poles with the same light posts in Vientiane. Everywhere else in Laos obviously has car meta. So it's kind of similar to the Guatemala car, but not really. Aside from Vientiane, because I believe they covered it with the same Google car as they use in Thailand. Whereas opposed to the other parts of Laos, they did get, their own coverage there. So let's see. Yeah, just me doing a bunch of panning here. But eventually we do decide that it's just regular Thailand. And yeah, you always got to be considerate of the possible Laos. Those poles, those signposts are certainly not Peruvian signposts. And those white wooden posts are usually more like very, very common in Bolivia, actually. So we do end up sending Bolivia. And it ends up being northeast of Sucre. This one should be South Africa. We have a sign queued up for left-hand drive. White line in the middle. And we should be in that Cape Town area. Giving the environment. This one, black car, thick white signpost with the trident top on the pole is going to be Uruguay. And this one does look like Locam Gen 4. And that's something that you will find in Sri Lanka. Given this environment with the red soil, I believe we are discussing as to whether or not this could be something like Japan, perhaps? Or maybe even... Because Japan also does have Locam Gen 4. But with the soil, it's looking way more Sri Lankan to me. Because you'll typically see a lot of red soil in that area. Eventually, I believe I do get the go-ahead to send Sri Lanka after a lot of discussion. Wait, am I sending Japan here? Am I? I must be. My brain is that of a goldfish, guys. I apologize. No. Yeah, I do convince them that it is Sri Lanka. And it just ended up being Sri Lanka, so makes sense. Alright, so this one, we do have white plates with those bollards. Bollards you'll typically find in both Germany and Luxembourg, and I think this should be Germany, given that we do have white plates. And it's just on the outskirts of Duisburg. This one, we do have, those short outer dashes. One of the most common, famous metas in GeoGuessr, and that's just going to be Sweden. And this one, we do have a yellow diamond sign alongside that speed sign. And that's something that, in conjunction with the black water tank and wooden poles, is just going to be a Mexican thing. Those painted poles are very common in both Peru and Colombia, but it is way too dry to be Colombia, so this should just be Peru here. Especially with that yellow plate on that truck there, which is used for commercial vehicles. Motorcycles will have blue plates. So we're just making sure it is near Lake Titicaca. This one, we see some Greek on that sign there, and we also have a wooden pole, wooden electricity pole, which makes sense. That does say Brazil on the sign. We do have a Brazil pole, and it does end up being, I believe, in the Amazon somewhere. Very, very close to the Bolivian border. But it's Brazil nonetheless. And this one also ends up being Germany, I believe. Does look like Germany just in general. The washed out camera also makes sense for Germany, so we send that. This one looks like Tunisia. We have an antenna on the car as well. And out of the Arabic-speaking countries, it should be the only one with antenna, unless I am wrong. Well, actually, I guess Israel does have long antenna. So I stand corrected. That antenna is looking like the Latin American antenna that you'll see in Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador. As opposed to the antenna that you'll see in Cambodia, which is a little bit different. The spiral on the Cambodian antenna goes horizontally around, as opposed to the Latin American antenna, which goes a little bit more diagonally. So we're just debating. Okay, actually, I stand corrected again. Goldfish brain. It is the Cambodian antenna. This one, those are very US looking bollards there. Not something that you're really seeing in Canada, and somebody does say Eastern Washington, which makes sense. Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon is very, very dry. And yeah, it ends up being Eastern Oregon, so makes sense. This one, debating between the or Russia and Ukraine here. With the quality of the road, you would usually associate that more with Ukraine. But yeah, not too much to go off of here, as we don't have a distinctive black or red car. And I believe I'm explaining to them about the houses and how, I don't know, how the windows look a bit more Russian with the blue tape around them. So we do end up going Russia. It ends up being northeast of Moscow. This one, yellow sign, no antenna, with the electrical tower there. Don't know the exact term for it, but I believe that's just going to be Serbia. And I think they're telling me where Vrasak is. And I think it's on the eastern border with Romania. Yeah, it's right there. So do I even get the city right here? I don't think so. I don't know where I'm going. Yeah. Straza. All right, do we 5K? I believe so. This should be a 5K. Yeah. Very nice. Kind of nice when you have clear signs there and people in the call know where the cities are. This one's just Israel with the yellow plate, long antenna. And this one, we have a distinctive red car, and that's going to be only in Ukraine. And I'm just waiting to confirm, and we do send. This one is Tasmania. Tasmanian snow coverage is very rare, but it does exist, especially with the Gen 3. It's a very, very weird combination, but it is there. And that car, and with the bollards, should indicate that we're in Australia, and Tasmania is the only place that makes sense that realistically has that snow coverage. This one, I do believe it is just Mexico, and I believe it looks like the Monterey area with the mountains. We don't have those distinctive Monterey mountains, but we are on the other side, so that definitely makes sense. I believe that's a black car there with this kind of environment. Looks like Peru. The three countries in Latin America with the black car is going to be Peru, Argentina, and Uruguay. And I don't think you would ever see this type of houses or, you know, high altitude environment in either of those two. So it is just Peru. This one, full yellow plates front and back. Very Dutch looking houses. Just going to be the Netherlands. This one looks like the Netherlands again. We have full yellow plates. These outer dashes, very similar to Swedish dashes. Something you'll see a lot. A bunch of Thai flags lining both sides of the road here. Going to be in Thailand. And we are on 170. This one was a bit tougher. Not too much to go off of here. Not a single sign or anything like that. But it does look like France. This one also, I believe, it does look like the Bari area in Italy, which is on the boot, the heel of the boot area, I would say. Just with these rocky walls, very dry looking environment. That place does get very dry. We do have some cacti as well. So all those things with that pole, which does look like an Italian pole to me. Kind of makes sense. We got a very nice Blanc. Chile poles there. White car as well. Means we're pretty south in Chile, I would say, with these trees and the green. This one we do have antenna, and we can see the back left bar, which means we're in Guam. In Northern Marianas, you won't be able to see that back left bar, and Puerto Rico obviously does not have front plates. And that one, the sign is on the left, and it is a red triangle sign. And this one, we are in Ecuador, as we do have the bollards for it. And this one, once again, we have the dilemma of Thailand versus Vientiane. I think this one does look more like Vientiane. I would say. Do we send it? Let's see. Yeah. Just a general vibe thing. It is going to have like this reddish looking soil as well. So it makes sense. This one, we do have a very small antenna with those bollards, which you'll mainly see in Slovenia, Austria, and Serbia. But in Serbia, most of the times the reflector is a little bit offset and it won't be in the middle like that. So I believe there is a yellow sign in the distance. Yeah, which means we're in Slovenia and we are on that eastern side where it is very flat. That looks like a Turkish pole top to me, with the minaret in the distance. Should just be Turkey. No antenna as well on the car. And then this one, I do believe, is the round that we threw on. Because I can see both Bolivia and Peru here. It's very hard to distinguish between the two sides of Lake Titicaca because the architecture is going to be very similar. This is very high altitude as well, which is kind of why we defaulted towards Bolivia, because that area around La Paz and Lake Titicaca is going to be very high altitude. And yeah, we're just deciding here, but it ends up being near Juliaca and on the other side of Lake Titicaca, and that's going to be the end of our streak. But we did get a 179, good enough for first place world record, so I'm very happy about that. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. I did go a little fast there on some of the quicker rounds, but I hope you guys learned something. And if you guys could like, subscribe, and comment on the video, that would be great. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye.